instead of having a to-do list, you want to have a success list. Can you explain like what that is and how it works?
Sure. I just want to make one comment. Like, I think Gary and I set out to write a productivity business book, but along the way, I just realized like he takes this approach in every area of his life. And there is real practicality in not having to have one mode for your personal life, one mode for your business life, one mode for your relationship. Like if you can have an approach that works in all of it, it makes a lot of sense. So just to give you a little background, we for a couple of years we tried to use an app for help to help people track their one thing and build habits. And it was okay, but I didn't want to, I felt like it was a little bit of a distraction for people, but we still got a lot of data. The number one application for the book was actually health. So our joke inside is like we set out to write a productivity and business book, and we actually wrote a health and lifestyle book because that seems to be where people go first. So having said that, you want to ask me about to-do list. I actually had this conversation with one of our new hires that was apologizing because she's been a list person her whole life. And I'm like, lists are fine. There's an amazing book. Have you read the checklist manifesto?
Manifesto. Yep.
Oh, it just shows you the power of building things into a simple checklist. Now, the thing about a checklist that's different than a to-do list, it's an order of operations. And I think what turns a to-do list into a success list is a similar kind of innovation. It's just about bringing priority to it. So in a lot of our corporate training and workshops, I don't do a lot of that, but my partner, Jeff Wood, and his team does. We can go in and get people to bring their to-do list, right? And so most people have on average around 20 to 25 tasks at any given time that they know they have to do. And I can guarantee you, like my little 80% task list that I keep for the little stuff is probably longer. But if you want to make it into a success list, it's just a couple of quick questions. It would be, Alex, take a look at that list and just quickly identify maybe a star or underline the things that you know matter more than the others. Great. Say, great. Now take those and start a new list. So now you've gone from 25 to say 10. Say, great. Now, if you could only do one of those 10 things this week, you got it done, only one, and nothing else got any movement, what would that be? All right. So people, what's great about this, I wasn't sure. Most people know the answers. They're like, whoa, gosh, I've got to do X. I've got to prepare for the SAT or whatever that is, right? So you move that to the number one. Say, great. Let's say you get that done. It happens, you get it done a lot faster than you thought. And you now have time for a second thing. What would your number two be? And great, so they move something up. And what actually happens is people go from a list of 20 to 30 things to often a list of 3 to 5. Because even that list of 10 things, they weren't actually all that important because they realized, well, if I just did number one, there's this other stuff that doesn't matter. And that's where the subtitle, right? I mean, you have this surprisingly simple truth, and we have a focusing question. It makes everything easier or unnecessary. If you just take a moment, it usually takes no more than 3 or 4 moments to take a to-do list and turn it into a success list. It's kind of transformational what it'll do for you. And if you've ever had one of those days where you were tasking all day long, I mean, you were crossing stuff off of your list, it's very satisfying in the moment because I love the moment of crossing it off. At the same time, like my wife might ask me, like, did you have a good day? And just say, I got a lot of stuff done. And she knows to ask, well, was it a good day? And I'm like, no, I just was running, right? Activity kind of lulls us into a false sense of productivity. And that is the difference. When you're acting on your priorities, you're being productive. When you're just acting on stuff, it's just busy work. So anyway, that's my spiel on to-do list. I still think they're powerful, but you need to add another step, bring a little bit of priority to them.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That has been a big like game changer in my life where I do have a to-do list and it felt great like crossing things off. But there's a huge difference between crossing off, throughout the trash versus like work on writing your book. It's like not all tasks are created equally, and just applying this simple concept of like the 80-20 rule, and you identify like which tasks are the most important. And like you said, there's a huge difference between being busy and being productive. And there's some days where I feel like I haven't done that much, but I really worked on the productive things and it made a huge impact. And there's some days where I'm just running like minor chores or tasks all day, and I do a lot, but it doesn't feel like I got a lot done. So that distinction was like a huge like eye-opening chapter, and I really love that part from the book.
I'll be honest, there are days and sometimes mornings where Gary and I will, like, we're trying to write. And when we write, we usually write for 4 to 6 hours at a time. So it's a huge chunk of our day given to our number one activity. And he's executive chairman of the board of the largest real estate. I mean, so we both I have a big job too. So it's tough to make that happen. And so, like every couple of weeks, we'll have I just need to clear the decks. And I know you've heard of batching. So I apply the success rule to my 20% activities. So like we have a whole process, like we just try to work on when we plan for our goals, we're talking about our 20%. What are the big rocks? I then have like another running list. I usually use an app or something. This is just stuff I know I have to do, and I have like a grocery list. And I don't want to forget it, but I don't want to walk around thinking about it in the David Allen, getting things done construct, right? Have a trusted place to put it. And I batch those things. And those will, sometimes it's a mental health morning, sometimes it's a mental health day. But there is psychological relief from kind of clearing the decks. So I just want to acknowledge that. Like Gary's not a robot, I'm not a robot. But if you go in and 80% of your days, you're living with priority. And the other, like the 2 out of 10 now, are the ones that you're using to just kind of clear the decks from all of the issues and challenges of modern life. You got to clear your inbox. Don't go inbox zero unless you're a psycho, right? Like that is a complete not productive activity that just makes us feel better, right? And then there's other stuff that we do, like whether it's Christmas cards or holiday cards or like, they're kind of important. You want to get them done, but they're not really the stuff that you do in the morning. So just acknowledging there's 2 kinds of tasks. There's one where you want a success list, and there's other ones. And if I could go back and write a chapter, I would have added a chapter on batching and just said, look, this is the technique for all the other stuff.